I'd like to call this meeting of the Silver Falls School Board to order. It's nice to see such a good crowd here tonight. Welcome. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That sounded good. Okay, we have a few items on our consent agenda tonight. Is there a motion for approval?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. David seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda approved. Student reps, Elijah and Courtney.
Hi, I'm Courtney, and I have the club's report. So ASB, led by Johnny Farrow, is planning their winter event of Winter Week, in which we have a whole week filled with games and activities, outside of class time, of course, right before winter break. Also, the 3 ASB classes are each decorating a Christmas tree for Silverton Together to be donated to a family in need in our community. National Honor Society, run by Chrissy Arnall, is volunteering at Silverton Together's Holiday Festival on December 13th and helping to wrap presents for the Tree of Giving on December 14th and 15th. The Red Cross Club, led by Kirsten Barnes, is training for their Disney Pillowcase presentations on December 11th. These presentations will help kids be prepared and ready for disaster situations and will be presented to 5th grade classes in February. The Key Club, run by Megan Miller, will be holding a fundraiser with Figaro's Pizza to raise money for materials to make blankets for children at OHSU. FFA, led by Scott Towery and Sarah MacArthur, is having their Christmas party tonight and are interviewing to find their Green Hand officers on December 9th. Also, they will be having their Green Hand degree ceremonies on December 18th at the high school. The Interact Club, led by John Mannion, held a very successful canned food drive last month and are now meeting to plan for future events. They have also adopted a family through the Tree of Giving and will be providing them with Christmas presents. The theater, run by Doug Osterhout, put on a wonderful production of To Kill a Mockingbird last month. Their next play will be Alice in Wonderland and will show in February and March. The Gay Straight Alliance, led by Katie Kantrowitz, held a bake sale last week at First Friday, where their customers could choose from 5 different charities to have their proceeds donated to. The Robotics Club recently won a new computer in a raffle and are going to be receiving a very helpful donation from a local technology store. Lastly, Band and Choir, led by Frank Petrick and Jennifer Kircher, will be holding their joint winter concert this Wednesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. in the auditorium to kick off the holiday season. And that's all I have for clubs.
I'm Elijah, and next is this month's report on Silverton High School athletics. Football, battle. Fox's football ended the season with a loss to the Hermiston Bulldogs in the 5A state championship game, 34-12. It was a disappointing loss, but the Foxes still had a great season, finishing with the Mid-Atlantic Conference title, a 12-1 overall record, and a second place finish in state. Now to kick off the Foxes' 2014-2015 winter sports season. Wrestling. The high school wrestling program is the strongest number-wise since Strider Davis has taken over as head wrestling coach. When Coach Davis came from South Salem High School to take over as Silverton head coach, his first year here, there were only 20 wrestlers on the team. Coming into his third year, there are 55 wrestlers on the team, with the freshman and sophomore classes being the largest. This year, Strider is expecting to finish the season in the top 3 at districts and send at least 8 wrestlers to the OSAA State Wrestling Tournament. Coming off a season of losing such a strong senior wrestling class is difficult. However, like most situations in life, once a leader or leaders step down, others will take their place and hopefully strive to do better. The program is returning 5 OSAA state qualifiers from last year, which include Boston Merrifield, Tristan Lanier, Austin Reed, Cody Googles, and Cameron Clokey. The future looks extremely promising for the Foxes. Silverton has been given the opportunity to host a district tournament this year. Please come out and support your student athletes. Swimming. We currently have 52 swimmers, 16 boys, and 36 girls out this season. 13 seniors, 9 juniors, 17 sophomores, and 13 freshmen. Our first meet is Tuesday, December 9th, and it's Central. We have a lot of swimmers that are at the same level, so it should be fun watching them compete. not only against other schools, but each other. The boys team is getting a nice infusion of freshmen to help the upperclassmen. The girls' upperclassmen will be out long distance swimmers, and our lowerclassmen will be our sprinters. As always, we will improve throughout the year through hard work and dedication. It will be fun to see them at district and see how much we have improved over the year. Boys basketball. The 2014 boys basketball season began with nearly 60 guys trying out for a spot, one of the 3 teams. Since then, the varsity and JV boys have been practicing shorthanded, waiting for the 8 football players to join. Practices were competitive before, but the football players have brought a new level of intensity and competitiveness this week in anticipation of our first game against North Salem this Tuesday, December 9th. The kids expect to be successful, having lost one senior, Ian Susich, who led the Foxes in scoring, from a playoff team that finished the season with 16 wins and 8 losses. 7 seniors led by Cole Chandler and Logan Munson are providing excellent leadership to a team with solid depth and high hopes. Dance team. After finishing up a very successful fall category season, dance team has qualified for championships with both their jazz and contemporary pieces. The fall category championship competition is a Saturday, December 6th at Canby High School. Go Foxes Dance. Girls basketball. All 3 teams have started out the season very strong. Varsity has played and lost 2 very close non-conference contests thus far against 6A foes, West Albany and Sherwood. Both games very competitive and fun to watch. The Lady Foxes are hosting North Eugene tonight. That is the athletic department update for now. Thank you so much.
Very good report tonight. Are there any questions for these guys?
Very nice report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, we're going to move on to audience with visitors. Just before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, and for those of you who especially haven't been here before, to give everybody a chance to speak. I like everybody to try to keep their comments under 5 minutes, and we'll go from there. We have a couple people who have requested time to speak in front of the board tonight, so we'll have them go first. Marie Traeger, Silver Falls Education Association President. Now we know who you are. We got you.
Good evening. My name is Marie Traeger. I'm a resident of Silverton, teacher at Silverton High School, but tonight I'm here representing the Silver Falls Education Association as their president. When I was meeting with the members and starting to decide on what I was going to present, it became very obvious that my role as union president and your role as school board members really is very similar. Our job is to listen to our members, yours, the community, to make decisions and to lead without a personal agenda. And as I was researching and gathering information for tonight, I went back and read through some old voters' pamphlets and some newspaper articles why each one of you decided to run for the school board. And every single one of you valued education. That was your number one reason why you were here. Mr. Beeson, you stated that our success in every arena of human endeavor depends directly on how well we succeed in the basic work of educating our people. Mr. Roth, you stated, I believe our children deserve the best education we can possibly give them. Mr. Buchholz, you stated, I would like to do my part to ensure that Silver Falls School District continues to provide excellent education for all students. Mr. Von Flew, simply, I value education. Julie Norris, I greatly value the role of educating our students. Mr. Stadley, the experience I had in Silver Falls School was positive from first grade through high school. The teachers were especially good mentors and leaders. Mr. Learman, you stated, we are fortunate to have many parents that care, as you can tell by this room, and are involved in their children's education, as well as many talented and caring teachers that continue to strive to find new ways to enhance classroom learning. It's now time to use those words to drive your next responsibility. As I was researching, I found an article back from 1921, and it was about the reason to build Eugene Field School. And it said, right living demands education. modern education needs facilities and equipment which are in harmony with the spirit of a fast age in which we are now living. So community after community is slowly but certainly awakening to the fact that one of its first duties is the proper housing of its young school population. No teacher can do her best without the influence on the children of a modern, clean, sanitary building in which the young people entrusted in her care may feel comfortable while being taught. It is these things, as part of a child's school environment, that make for a receptive attitude of mind and body, which the best teacher is seriously handicapped in her work. The irony of that statement back from 1921 was that was the reason to build Eugene Field School. And today, that's the reason that we need to close and move our staff and students out of that building. You've worked tirelessly over the last year on a visioning plan that I saw displayed for everyone as they came into the room. A part of that plan included attendance rate for students. You agreed that every student will attend 95% or more school days. As of the end of November, the attendance rate for Eugene Field School is September 95.6%, October 93.2%, and November 91.5%. One of the responsibilities as an elected board is to hire a superintendent, and the role of superintendent is to run the school district. Mr. Belando is doing just that. He provided a comprehensive plan based off of pages of data, hours of testimony, surveys, results, tests, which cost thousands of dollars. His plan includes closing Eugene Field School and beginning the necessary maintenance on the other kindergarten through 8th grade buildings. Our teachers deserve a modern, clean, and sanitary building to continue to educate our students. As an association, we've met. We made a list of the maintenance needs in all of those buildings that I shared with Mr. Belando. Not a new list, a list that's out that everyone knows. But now it's time for you to listen to Mr. Belando as the leader and allow him to do the job that he was hired to do. It's time for a motion to be made and a vote to occur to get our staff and students out of Eugene Field School. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions for Marie?
Well, I just have one question. I'd like to know if you looked at the attendance figures for other schools in the district and how those compared to Eugene Field School for the months that you listed.
We can get you those, but I just used Eugene Field's data.
Well, I think that's important because
sure.
I'd like to know whether it's unique to Eugene
common
Field or
thing,
whether
or-
it's kind of a common pattern throughout the district.
Okay.
So, thank you. It's a very nice presentation, by the
Thank
way.
you. Any other questions?
Anything else? Thank you very much, Marie.
Thank you.
That was well said. Okay, Miranda Traeger and Kate Patterson, Community Roots.
Always that hidden thing when she's passing out. All right. So, my name is Miranda Traeger. I'm the administrator for the Community Roots School, and I'm here with Kate Patterson, who is a board member for Community Roots School as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you and speak again. And I come to speak again this time to talk about our support in this very tough process that you're going to go through to find a permanent solution for our students at Eugene Field. I understand that you have some very tough decisions that are laid before you, and I'm here to state that Community Roots is willing and able to be any part of a solution that we can.
We currently have 82 students, and at the back of the paper, I kind of listed our kiddos on there, and anyone that's denoted with the word outdoor, those are our out-of-district kids. But we have 68 in-district students that are housed at the Schlater campus currently in grades 1st through 6th grade. And the first point is that these are district students. These are 68 of our kiddos here. I want to put out there that our community has such a sense of being rooted, not only in this community, but then also rooted into this district. I think that myself and the staff very much feel supported by administration and a variety of other schools that exist around here. And we're so grateful that that's kind of a unique opportunity for a charter school to have a feeling of being a part of a district. And we are very grateful for that opportunity to have that feeling here. One thing that I do want to point out is that as an organization, we have convened a facilities committee numerous times, and throughout this process tried to find a permanent home for Community Roots. And one of the things that we have found in the numerous attempts is that we've explored a variety of private facilities in town and out of town. We've also explored public options as well. And there's a couple hurdles that we've come up against in this process. One is there's some code issues. We're very limited in the facilities that we can be a part of. And along with that, there's some big fees that can be involved for building our own. This very cost prohibitive fees. So we've looked at properties such as St. Paul's Church. We've looked at property adjacent to Mark Twain. We've looked at Monitor School. We've looked at a variety of different ones. In line with Monitor School, that was an option that was we have explored extensively. There's a couple concerns that we have about the Monitor School for ourselves. We have not opened up that conversation, that dialogue again, but for reasons we have looked at transportation costs, and the amount of money that it would take to bus our kiddos out there is very cost prohibitive with our small budget that we have. In the past, we've been able to partner with other lines that go out there. And then also our board came together and listened to our community and found the voice within our community that it would, if we were to make that move out into that monitor space, or maybe even some other outlying spaces, that we would lose a number of our families, that the hardship of making that journey out there would be really difficult for them. So as a Community Roots board, we made the decision to not explore that option in the past. So I put before you pictures of our kiddos, and what I'd like to put out there is that I would love to invite you in and to come and to observe in our classrooms. They're unique and they're wonderful, and these kids would love to be able to have an opportunity to kind of show you what they're doing. And again, thank you for allowing us to come and speak, and the continued support, and the staff. I really appreciate all the support that we've gotten with that. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kate Pattison, and I'm a resident of Silverton and a parent of two children. Molly, who is class of 2024, and she is currently enrolled at Community Roots, and I have a daughter who's 10 months old, who I think I was doing the math, it's like 2032 or something, which just seems so far out there. But we're here in Silverton, and we're here to see our children through the public education system in this community. I'm a fervent supporter of public education. I understand the direct link between the quality of public education and that opportunity in our community to how it impacts our community around its vibrancy and overall health. And so I stand before you, or sit before you this evening. Really, I believe in that very strongly and support that in the community, whether it comes in the choice of a public charter school or in any of the other public offerings in the community. As a board member for Community Roots, I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to address you and affirm our support of what you're doing and trying to find really safe and wonderful environments for our students to learn in and for them to continue to flourish. We're a community of very passionate parents just as any other school has passionate parents, we are here too, and we're in your district. We're part of the district. We're all in this together. And so I just wanted to affirm our support as a parent community who can mobilize and be a part of this and support what needs to happen in order to find the best place for students to learn.
Excellent. And I want to thank our community members for coming out and showing their support to them.
Any questions for Miranda or Kate?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, you guys.
Hi, my name is Charles Petrick. I am 11 years old and a 6th grader at Community Roots School. My class will be the first to graduate after attending all 6 years of the school. During those 6 years, I've been able to work at my own pace, which is a huge benefit to my learning. Each day, I have 3 hours to complete my required works and then have the freedom to learn and explore subjects and materials on my own. This layout of the day allows me to be efficient and responsible with my time. The teachers are there to guide us through our learning and give us a lot of responsibility in the school. A few other things about my classroom are, some days I can get 9 works done, and some days I can get only 3 works, what we call it. This depends on how hard the jobs are or how long they take. I have the freedom to move around the classroom as I choose, and to work with different classmates on different jobs. When I was younger, I was motivated by the older children. My goal was to do the harder work that they were doing. Now I strive to inspire the younger students in my class. Right now, I'm working on pendulum labs with the research method, researching famous leaders and leadership styles, algebra, which is my favorite subject, and geometry. And then also the usual work like grammar, writing, and the journals in the morning. Thank you.
Charles. You're in 6th grade and you're already working on algebra and geometry?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. That was awesome. That was great. Thank you, Charles. Okay, we're going to open up to anybody else now. I had said please limit your thoughts to 5 minutes or less. And also when you come up, there's a clipboard and some pencils here. Please sign in your name and address and then tell us who you are. So, anyone want to address the board tonight?
Mr.
Jim.
Thank you. My name is James Little. I'm a Silverton resident, and
Jim, please sign in before you get going, just so Denise has a record of it.
So, anyway, I've been here all my life, know many of you, and am known by even more people, which is a little scary. So, I had a proposal to basically repurpose Eugene Field School. I think that, and I put that in writing by email to the board, and I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to read it. And I don't know, I haven't talked to very many other people about it, but I brought copies of it tonight in case anybody wants any. So, if somebody could help me hand them out, that'd be appreciated. And these are only my ideas, and I have to say the part at the end about dyslexia, that's already been taken care of. I had a good conversation today, and I feel that, I'm not saying it's taken care of, but I feel real good about what the school district is doing, and I want to provide some resources. I'm willing to even pay for some resources to help solve that problem if I have to.
Thanks.
Okay, now the other thing is repurposing Eugene Field School. I went there. I had a very good experience. It was a wonderful place, and all of my children have gone there, all 4 of them, and it was the same for them. It was a wonderful experience. It almost couldn't have been any better. Maybe they had a few sniffles that they wouldn't have otherwise had. I don't know. I get sniffles sometimes, but I survived. But Eugene Field was a wonderful, loving place, and I hate to see it go. But on the other hand, who would locate, well, who would put a dam above a city, and then who would, I mean, I'm worried about what's going to happen when the earthquake comes, if ever, and I don't want my grandchildren in Eugene Field School, and frankly, from what I understand, it's kind of not a great place to work and not the best we could do. So I'd like to replace it with something better, but I don't want to lose it because I love it. I love Eugene Field School. It's the heart of the community. I mean, if you start up at the north, with the Brains, the school district, and then you go south, Eugene Field is the heart. And then the downtown is the stomach, and don't ask what City Hall is. So, anyway, but it's the heart, and I care about it, I think a lot of good feeling comes from Eugene Field, and it's affected this community for a long time in a good way. And, the sentiment of the building is shown in the poetry that is on the wall as you come in on the right-hand side. It's a beautiful poem, and anybody that hasn't read it should take the time, because it's a beautiful sentiment. And I can understand why they put it there. So, I hate to see it go, and I'd like to see it used because it has value to the community. And so, I think there are people here that can make it work. They can make it work. We need to get our kids out of there, and I think on an urgent basis, I'd call an emergency. I'd say, you know what? We're just not going to tolerate this anymore, and we'll find a way. If that place burned down tomorrow, what do you think we'd do? We'd find a place to put our children. There's places in the community. We can use them. We need to ask. And anyway, we put our kids somewhere else and for a temporary fix. And then we try to work something out with Eugene Field School, and I think we can do it. I think we can do it through a nonprofit.
1 minute left.
All right. So, I think there's people that would lease portions of that building. The school district could lease a portion, and a lot of other organizations could lease a portion, and we could make it work. So, that's all I have to say.
Questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Yeah, Jake.
A lot of familiar faces. My name is Jake Bruckner, born and raised in Silverton. Most of you on the board, Superintendent Andy Belando. Have a daughter in the school district. Both of my parents are educators. My dad still is. My wife is. My daughter goes to Eugene Field. I agree that Eugene Field needs to go. It's not fit for kids. I am very excited about Andy Belando's, that he came up with a solution. However, putting a $2 million Band-Aid on Eugene Field, I think, is a horrible decision. I think we need to slow down and think about why the bond didn't pass and come up with a permanent solution. I agree that the old high school campus is where the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade need to be housed. We need to reconfigure and realign, but moving modulars in there and the expense of power, sewer, water to set that up, and delaying new construction 5 to 20 years is a poor plan. Construction costs go up yearly. Everyone can testify that. I think we need to slow down, get a plan, and see about reusing the old high school. Remodeling, bringing it up to seismic standards. We always hear about seismic, the big earthquake. The building we're in now would collapse. Every school building in this district is not seismically sound, except maybe the new portion of the new high school. Even the old portion that was built with the first bond does not meet seismic standards of today. I think we need to reevaluate, get engineers in, and try to repurpose the old building. I was born and raised in that building. Since the day I was brought home, I grew up in that old high school until they built a new one. It's concrete, it's rebar. It can be reinforced and reused. I think we need to reevaluate using that building. Now, I agree, the old gymnasium, the theater that it is now, all of that, I agree, that is old. But I think we need to get an engineer in there. Someone to think about reusing it. Maybe it won't cost us $25 million. I agree with the whole reorganizing, but let's slow down and make a good plan. And I think the reason why the bond failed wasn't a dollar amount. I think it was because people weren't exactly sure what they were getting. I mean, you can see the support from the community. Everyone here wants the kids to have great schools. I do. I have a daughter in Eugene Field, but I'm all right with her being in there for a couple more years. I mean, she's in just as much danger as she was in any other building in this town. Look at downtown. They're all 100-year-old buildings. But I think we need to do it right. Let's not just put a Band-Aid on it. The other thing why I think the reorganization is great is the old Schlater Street campus is set up for a junior high. All the fields are there. It just makes practical sense to do that. And we can also, when this is all done, we have a lot of, the district has a lot of assets. And in my opinion, the most valuable property still in Silverton is the Eugene Field property. I mean, I think we would have people lined up to buy that property and redevelop it and get a good plan for the district. So I would just like to suggest that the school board hire an engineer or whoever they need to be that specializes in these older concrete buildings.
1 minute, Jake.
And figure out, maybe move forward with a new plan to repurpose that building and get a vision of reusing what we have and not just putting a Band-Aid on a problem that isn't going to get better and is going to be more expensive further on down the line.
Questions for Jake? Thanks, Jake. Thanks for your comments.
I think a little quick response, though, to Jake would be appropriate, and that's that, Jake, there's been a lot of engineering done, and I think that Mr. Verlando would probably be happy to provide that if it's not available in a public way already. But there have been a lot of engineering studies done on that building, and it's not concrete, it's structural, it's brick for the most part. And so I think that's been primarily, probably the biggest reason why it hasn't been feasible to fix that building.
Well, I would just say that I work in a huge metropolitan area, and they just remodeled a building that was 150 years old and brought it up to seismic standards. So I know it can be done. And I don't think it's a dollar amount. I think why this bond passes, you can see people cherish these old buildings. We're in one right now. I think they didn't know what the plan was. It was very generic. It was a dollar amount. And people want to save the old buildings, and I'm all for that. But I think we need to maybe move with that, because if we just tear stuff down, it's gone. And I think the community cherishes the old buildings. Look around what people are doing with all the old buildings downtown.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Jessica, were you on your way up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, she can go first.
Because he's has bed. He wants Mom to go first. My name is Jessica, and this is my son Jackson. He is a third grader at Eugene Field, and I brought him today because...
Jessica, could you pull the mic a little
Oh,
closer?
absolutely. Is that better?
Yeah.
I brought him today because I feel like sometimes the conversations, even though they're, have good intentions, they digress because there's so many people with so many different ideas about what should be done. And so he's here more or less because he represents the students, and that's really what these conversations need to be about. So I just ask that if we find ourselves digressing, that we remember that everything that we do is for the students and the staff. He's going to tell you a little bit about what it's like to attend school. And I'm going to share some of my struggles as a parent. For example, today, this is my daughter's coat. I wish it was mine, but it's thick. And this is what she has to wear in class to keep warm because her classroom is not effectively heated. And I don't know if you've all ever tried to do anything in a coat. Like, it's uncomfortable to drive. It's uncomfortable to work in a coat. And she has to wear her coat. She painted in it today, so now we're attempting to try to figure out how to get paint out of it. And I'm not mad about that. I'm just sad that that's the conditions that she's in. Something else that I wanted to address is that we obviously need to find solutions. I don't envy your position to do that. But I feel like this community is comprised of so many intelligent people, and so many people are going to tell you different ways about how we should go about it. I don't think that I can honestly give my opinions objectively. They're of course going to be subjectively because I have children there. That's why I think that even though I have the utmost respect for Andy Belando and you as board members, that it might be worth your time to hire an independent consultant to look at the school district in a whole, not just Eugene Field, but at the entire district, do some of those analysis of what needs to be done for growth. Because any decision that you make for one school is going to impact the rest. And so I'd really like to see not a task force, but somebody who doesn't live here, who can go to bed at night and feel good about the decisions they made because they're not making them from an emotional standpoint. I know that I wrote you guys a letter and I proposed one cost-containing idea was to see how many schools in the district might be able to do a 4-day week school, because that has been effective across the nation. It's an idea. I don't know if it's doable. I'm just throwing it out there. But ideas like that need to be explored because I don't feel that we have the resources and funding to do everything that we want to do within the district. And Eugene Field isn't the only problem, although I think that it should be a priority. So I'm going to turn the mic over to my little man Jackson, and he probably would be too embarrassed to tell you, but this is my bragging moment. But little man is reading almost at a 5th grade level, and he's in 3rd grade. And he just did his assessment, and he placed 97%. That puts him in the 97th percentile nationally for math. So he tested better than 97% of students his age. So I've always known that he's going to do great things in his life. I just really want to see the community give him the environment that he deserves to get a good, solid education.
My name is Jackson, and I'm in 3rd grade. My teacher is Miss Gianella. I really like the teachers, but some problems are like the water you drink from, some of it's warm, and usually when you wash your hands, the water is cold, and I think that should kind of be switched.
I would agree with you.
Like the warm water should go to the bathroom, and then the cold water should be drinking. And I've gotten pneumonia there before. Every winter. Yeah.
You're doing fine, buddy. Thanks.
So Jackson has been healthy his whole life until he was a kindergarten there, and he's had walking pneumonia every year. The doctor thought that he perhaps had asthma. He was tested for it. There's no family history, no smoking in the home. So it is concerning, and I know that we could talk about this on and on, but I do think that there are health concerns in there that I don't even think that we can really substantiate them. They're there. There's teachers. There's lots of people who have gotten sick. So I just wanted to share that with you, and he's well aware of some of the problems, and it just really saddens me that any child is in that condition. So I just really encourage you all to make it a priority and make sure that that we are doing the right things for all the students, because I don't want to see the whole effort be Eugene filled and then have the other schools suffer. One of my
30 seconds.
Okay. Lastly, one of my ideas was to put modulars at Robert Frost and at Mark Twain. And as you get money, whether it be from a private loan, the sale of Eugene Field, or what have you, start adding on to pods or wings at those facilities. I think that makes the most sense. We just really need to be done with Eugene Field, and then the community needs to heal and move forward. And please, please don't waste any money in trying to remodel or keep that facility for children. It's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions for Jessica Jackson? Thank you, Jackson. You did awesome. I love it when kids come. Anyone else? Yes.
Hello, I'm Bill Sieber, a parent and lifelong Silvertonian. Just listening to all the passionate parents and community, I see that, similar to what other people have said, is that the bond measure mainly didn't go because we didn't have a consistent vision in the community. It wasn't that we all didn't want something, it's that we all didn't want the same thing. I also know over many years, especially considering that it was originally voted to stop maintenance on Eugene Field back in the 60s, that for many years, this community has been looking for a solution, and for many years trying and then giving up and then trying again and not getting there. I think we need to make sure that as we move forward, the various studies that have been made available need to be shown and compared item by item so that people understand what they would get with one type of an idea versus another. I think by keeping everything open, we can grow as a community into a coherent understanding of why we would make a decision, and also we would understand better what we are getting with that decision. We also have to recognize that due to our history as a community, we have seen that certain ideas have already been tossed aside to the point that we probably can't get the bulk of the community behind them, even if they were to be rational, save money, or be practical. But in order for us to come together cohesively, we need to get all the ideas on the table and have a good method of showing rationally what we get with each, what benefits are with each, so that we can move forward. So I guess, if anything, that's just from me to you a charge of, I guess, transparency of decisions so we can all get behind you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Just a quick comment on that. And Bill, a lot of the information, all the information that we, in researching Eugene Field the last couple of years, most of that information is on the district website or available at the district office. A lot of the analysis and some of the engineering studies we've had done on that building, everything's available, and a lot of it was on the district. Okay, well, it's been available on the district website the whole time the bond was on, so I'm just throwing that out there. Anyone else? Yeah.
It's nice seeing you again. My name is Mike Halbert. I live here in Silverton, Eugene Field, class of '62. Went to school with Darby back here. Side note, we heard from Jackson, sounds like a pretty smart kid. Must be going to a pretty good education, must have a good educational environment. I look at the report card, state report card, assuming it's pretty accurate, says it's pretty good over there. We've got a good thing going. It's above the state average. It's not as good as Evergreen, but it's pretty doggone good. So that tells me that we've got something good there. Now, as far as you also heard from Jackson, we've got cold coming out of the warm and warm coming out of the cold. Fix it. How tough is that? Come on, you know, we've heard that there's stains on the walls. Fix them. The taxpayer will pay for that. We've heard some people that say, well, there's not enough for the other schools. They're right. You know, we've got maintenance issues throughout the district. Fix them. The taxpayers will pay for that. Have a defined plan. Salem has a great example of how to do this. They put through a $242 million bond. No problem. Fixed all the schools, built a couple new schools. We talk about seismic remediation. I looked it up. I'm no expert, but I looked it up. Silverton High School is twice as good as any of the high schools being occupied in Salem. Twice as good. What are they doing? They're doing some remediation on the exits. Some of the schools, if we did have an earthquake, the walls are going to fall down, but the floors are still going to be standing because they've got steel frames. That's what Salem did, because they did practical things. They realized they didn't have the money to make it all, to replace every school, and that's what we're talking. I would also, I'm going to make one comment and I'll be done. Last time I was here, you said, well, you know, every school has a lifetime. Well, Brush College in Salem, 1860. Evergreen is 20 years older than Eugene Field. So that's not true. They don't have a lifetime. They have the lifetime of the community. And the community is willing to fix them. So that's what I've got to say.
Questions for Mike?
Thank you.
I just have to give a couple quick clarifications on a couple things you said too. You referenced the test scores and the quality of education at Eugene Field. That goes totally to the credit of the staff there. There are limits.
I agree.
That building does have a lot of limitations educationally, and anybody that understands what it takes these days to educate a kid knows that.
Show me the data.
I'm not going to get into a discussion with you. These are just points that need to be brought up. That's totally because of the staff doing a good job down there in spite of some of the limitations that the building presents.
I applaud the staff. I think they're doing a fabulous job. It's evidenced by the report card. They're doing a fabulous job. We've provided a great educational environment. And isn't that what we're talking about? We've got, there are kids in other parts of the world who are sitting on dirt floors, writing on chalk tablets, who are doing better scores than we are. It's not the facility. It's the educational environment we've provided, and we, the citizens, have provided a great educational environment. We need to keep doing so.
That's what our goal is, so thanks. Anyone else? Over here. And we'll get you next.
Hi, my name is Andy Diacetis. Before I read this, I want to point out that this was a collaboration with myself and Courtney Good from Scotts Mills. A little background between that is that we both came at the last bond from very different sides of this argument. So we decided to try to work on a letter that we were going to send into the school board, and instead of send it in, we decided for me to read it here tonight. So. Any symbolic statements you make about plowing ahead with closing Eugene Field will only cause more harm. If there is a solid plan in place, that's one thing, but forcing that issue without a real plan will only force you to make a decision that might lead to more anger and mistrust in the community. Whether you care to believe it or not, the board is now being held accountable for any wrongs, perceived or real, from the fallout of the high school bond. Forging ahead while the ship appears rudderless will only widen that gap significantly. You need to demonstrate that you have the ability to make sound decisions that work for the long-term health of the entire district. Forcing the closure of this school, even one that everybody agrees needs to be dealt with, cannot be done without a plan of placing 500 students and staff somewhere. There is currently a very real grassroots effort by people in this community on all sides coming together with the attempt of real ideas that can eventually be agreed upon. We need to know that the school board is willing to do the same. It would be beneficial to all of us if there was some direction, leadership, and most importantly, willingness to listen from the community. There is very little confidence among many that the board is willing and able to collaborate on this to create a well-thought-out long-term solution. Prove us wrong. This community truly understands the complexity of the situation that you have been chosen to deal with. We all know you have the best intentions in mind as you try to solve this very, very complicated problem. We also know that despite the opinions of some, most people in this district do indeed have the best intentions, and their hearts are in this to ultimately help kids. Whatever decisions get made over the next several months are going to set the course for at least the next 12 years. If done right, hopefully even longer. While that is a huge obligation, it's also an opportunity for you to end this decades-long black mark on this community and forge a real path for the future. The basic concept of what we need is actually quite simple: a temporary solution for students and staff at Eugene Field. I put temporary in quotation marks because most of us realize that whatever happens now is likely going to be in place until the high school bond is off the books. For many of us, 12 years seems like forever. It's an entire school cycle for our kids. But in the eyes of the history and the future of our school district, it is not as significant. Number two, long-term plan on what to do with all the schools in the district. It's no secret that the high school bond is a weight that we are all dealing with, and is a huge reason we cannot make grand gestures currently. If you show us that we can be fiscally responsible during this transition, the school board will build the necessary trust to be able to do great things when we come out from underneath the existing bond. With a plan in place, the community will more easily be able to get on board with what you want to do because it's quote-unquote part of the plan. Without a plan, it feels like we will be reinventing the wheel every time that an issue comes up with the other schools in the district, because that train is coming too. It will be better to be prepared for it now. It's been pointed out to us in writing this that the message is short on actual ideas. We are assuming that plenty of other people either have or will be bringing up specific options of things that can be done. The good news is that most people we have talked to start with their own ideas on what needs to happen, and after discussion are at least willing to look at other options. That's all.
Okay, any questions for Andy? Great, thank you, Andy. Back in the back there.
Wow. I had no intentions of talking today.
Introduce yourself, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Eric Rapé.
Thanks.
I had zero intentions of talking today, but standing back there, first and foremost, I was kind of forced to come up here and just say how very glad I am that I'm not one of you guys. The problem that you're facing right now is impossible, and by the number of statements that have been made up here has proven that fact. Most of the people who have come up here have said, well, we need to look at why the bond failed. And every one of them had a different reason why it failed, which makes it impossible to look at why it failed, because it failed for a different reason for everybody who voted no. Everybody has their own opinions. Some of them are right, some of them are wrong, some of them are crazy, some of them are brilliant. The fact is, everybody has a different reason. It's hard to look at why it failed. There's a few things. I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy. I like the buildings. I would hate to see Eugene Field go away. I'd hate to see the high school get torn down. And I hate governing bodies that don't let the people make decisions. That being said, Eugene Field needs to go away. The old high school needs to be torn down. And you guys need to stop listening to us and do what we voted you to do and just make some decisions. you've heard every opinion from everybody who's cared to show up, and I think it's time that, as much as I hate that, as much as I want to be involved and I want to have ideas and I want to be part of this, I think we're beyond that, and it's time for you guys just to do it. It may cost some of you getting elected next time, but what you're going through right now, how bad is that going to hurt? So I just felt that needed to be said, and thank you guys for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Eric. She had her hand back up there before. Celeste?
Hi. My name is Celeste Lopez. I just wanted to give you my own personal selfish perspective on that. I really do feel that this is urgent, and I agree with the others that we need to be thoughtful about a long-term plan. But I also feel that beyond the fiscal side of this is the personal side of this. And as a parent, shouldn't have to choose between my neighborhood school and my child's health. And I'm forced to make that decision. I've been bringing my son to the school where I work to avoid that facility because he did have, as I've told you before, pneumonia and respiratory infections and ear infections, sinus infections, and so did I. Had sinus surgery after I started working in that building, nonstop sickness. And I know that it doesn't affect every child like that, but it affects many children like that. It's affected many staff. And I don't think that's right. I moved here to Silverton because I thought it would be a good place to raise my kids. I grew up in a town a lot like Silverton, and I wanted something like that for my children. And that's why I moved here. And my husband and I have seriously entertained the thought of moving several times in the last year because of Eugene Field School. I love the staff there. They're my friends. They're wonderful educators. They work so hard in fighting the facility. It's not right. So I'm sorry, I'm a little shaky. This is a difficult thing to speak about for somebody that's been involved in it professionally and personally, but I over the last couple of weeks made a decision to switch schools in my school district, and instead of uprooting my own child again to put him in a non-community situation so that I can avoid that facility and make sure that he's not sick, my husband and I, we looked at outlying schools, which are, by the way, really full right now. Class size is way bigger than normal for this town. And I'm sure that part of it is because families are avoiding the facility. My husband and I want more than anything for our son to be able to go to school with his community. And he started today back at Eugene Field School in a modular classroom. And I'm going to be afraid every day to see if his asthma is worse. I've asked for special considerations so that he can avoid being in the facility unless it's necessary. And we can do better than that. So I think we need to have a timeline. You need to get out of that building by June. And at this point, I don't even care where you put my kid. I just want to know that I'm not going to be sending my kid to a facility that's making him sick. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you. And I know this is a really tough job for you all, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. And it's time for you to make a decision and move forward.
Thank you, Celeste.
Hi, I'm Glenn Brasington. I'm a psychologist here in Silverton and also have an office right across from Eugene Field and have volunteered at Eugene Field for a while. You've heard a lot of different opinions, and the last couple opinions, and particularly the opinions from the parents, are striking in their concern, and I think you well know and have been grappling with those issues. I hear people say that Eugene Field definitely needs to be closed, and my point is, it certainly sounds like there needs to be a very real, very quick, very definitive solution to the problems that are in Eugene Field. What I'm here to say is, to me, it's still not clear, and I guess that's your mandate to understand what that solution is, and that solution needs to both be effective and also cost-effective. The learning environment for those children needs to be improved. They need to be in a place that's safe, that facilitates their learning. But also, as you realize, I think, from the difficult experience of several bonds, what you need to do is to both have a very fiscally responsible way of doing that change, and also to communicate that change to the citizens who vote on those bonds. I have concerns. What I heard is, take down Eugene Field and also tear down the old high school. That may be the best thing to do. I would certainly appreciate if you deeply consider both Eugene Field but also the high school. The high school is, as was said before, has a lot of qualities in it that potentially could adapt well to a junior high school. I would feel very concerned if it is torn down, that part, without really significant consideration to the asset that you have there, and to give up that asset in a way that we later regret would be very unfortunate. So that fits into the third thing, which is that the needs of the school district and the children in the school district are actually quite broad. You have a number of facilities, many of which have one need or another. The issues, as I understand it, of maintenance and how maintenance has not been adequately continued in a way that has led to certain deteriorations is a big concern. I do not know enough about it, but I do know there's a very difficult history of funding educational enterprises, and that you have had a very difficult time. But I am very concerned that the school district have a plan that has long-term, solid foundation that goes on, and it's not just one piece and then another piece and another piece. It is true, I believe, that the impact of the high school bond has had a lingering impact on other school funding, and that is one thing you're swimming up against. So I ask you to, one, be open to any types of options or considerations that, in a fiscally responsible way, take you to a place for the children to have effective, supportive environment for them to have their education in, and that you be open to input from any reasonable place that helps you decide how to do that in a fiscally appropriate manner. And I appreciate your difficulty, and I appreciate you listening to this feedback, and I appreciate the people that are here concerned about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Anyone else? Okay, good, thank you. Oh.
Good evening, board members and ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dan Johnson. My family's been here for 100 years this year. 3 generations of Eugene Field School. My mother went there. Our children went there, all 4. And they had wonderful educations from wonderful teachers. We're very supportive of the education in Silverton on a public basis, but I think we need to take a look at a few other things. I appreciate all the comments that were made, and I respect those comments and opinions. My background is I was president CEO of Western Medical Consultants for 25 years, and then I sold the company to my employees, who I greatly respected. Some of the things that have been brought up tonight kind of fit into what I did as president and CEO. Facilities, leasing, building. Also taking a look at medical evaluation work, where supposedly 6 schools existed, such as Eagle Point, approximately 15 to 18 years ago, where teachers were coming down with illnesses and whatnot. Then students came down. After a long investigation with psychologists, building inspectors, not ENTs, but ear, nose, throat, and respiratory professionals, we found that it wasn't the school. Tens of thousands of dollars had been spent barking up the wrong tree. These people definitely had some illnesses, but it wasn't necessarily the school. Now, beyond that, I have a written presentation I'll hand out after I speak. To me, this is a very important long-term issue that we've been dealing with since I was in Eugene Field School. I want to have a little bit of review of what's gone on, if you don't mind. A committee was formed in the past to review the feasibility of future use of Eugene Field School. It was understood by many from the published information provided by the district administration that the committee was pretty much in unanimous agreement to close the school. This turns out not to be the case, according to several individuals who were part of that committee that I've spoken to. Based on the committee report and other input from district staff, the board voted to close the school without having a plan other than to place a $38 million bond before the voters to build at a new location. Many in our community raised and had questions regarding what is considered now, what we think, and some people think, and I think, is maybe a flawed process. What is the cost to upgrade and remodel Eugene Field School to bring it up to long-term use standards? There have been numerous comments on what's wrong with the school, but never, to my knowledge and others, has there been an objective cost determination of heating, electrical, plumbing, structural, and the potential for additional classrooms designed to mirror the existing structure. There could also be underground infrastructure costs, including the potential closure of A Street and or designing a potential option to the current bus access.
1 minute, Dan.
Already?
Yeah.
My goodness. The published data shows the maintenance for some, if not all, the district schools have been an issue. Authorizations to make proper repairs must come from the board or the administration. Waiting for government grants to initiate repairs makes no sense if children are at risk. There appear to be general funds available for at least some of the issues that need addressing. Why have repairs not taken place, and what is the reasoning for not doing so? After the first bond defeat, my wife and I attended a local event at which time a well-known individual asked if I was pleased with the bond's failure. I indicated no. I felt it was sad that our community was needlessly going through the perceived us against them issues. This was not my intent when I wrote letters to the editor, to be us against them. This person then said to be aware that the city of Silverton, now this is months ago, was ready to acquire the property for public use. With this in mind, over the last several weeks, this board and administration have now started to mention this.
Dan, please wrap it up. We're over 5 minutes. So.
Okay, the district community needs to know, how long has this discussion been taking place? It is evident that this has been discussed over a long period of time. Were the talks formal or informal? And who specifically initiated these discussions? Was everyone on the board privy to the discussions when they were initiated? Why is this just now coming to our attention as a community?
Dan, we're well over 5, so I'm going to, in order to give other people a chance, I'm going to have to ask you.
Was that over 5 weeks? I have papers that are I have available for everyone else to see, as well as the board. And I'd appreciate if the board could get back or at least comment on some of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's what I'm trying to do. Gene Pfeiffer, Silverton.
Dan, can I get a copy?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so I'm going to take about a minute talking about perhaps how when the bonds failed and it could have passed. If you look at the budget that you had yourselves, there was $3.3 million in there for site improvements. We found out last work session that that was a deal with the city to put a street in from Florida Avenue across the railroad tracks and go over by McDonald's restaurant. At least that's the general scope of it from what I heard. There's site improvements that the city is wanting you to do. That's a good portion of that $3.3 million. You also had $2.5 worth of contingencies in your budget, and the cost for the architectural and engineering was $2.1 million. That totals $7.8 million. You could have reduced the budget request down to $18 million by taking $7 million off, and it maybe would have had a chance to fly. So that's one thing. All of this comes from poor planning that happened before, where the board, or Andy, met with the city and changed the occupancy from E to something else, which is ridiculous. It still is an E occupancy, which is educational. So and to emphasize too, the focus group that met with 13 different groups, they came back, I listened to it, went to the reports and studied it. They said that the majority of people want the board to do something about Eugene Field School. It wasn't to get out of it, it was to do something about it. So I want to emphasize these things. Now, the next part I'm going to talk about, is there a solution? And there's a solution, but we need to listen to it, and as someone said, bring people in that will take and participate and make a number that will work. And the answer is very simply stated, which I'm going to joke with this. We have two dog poop zones in town. We want to trade one for the other, and that'll take care of it. We have one down at Eugene Field School. We have another one on the property that you sold the city a few years back. That's a good location for a school if we want to put one there. I know the numbers can be a lot less than the Portland associates that you've been dealing with will give you. Under 12 million, that'd give you a lot of room to do things for rural schools and for security and technology. A bond of 15 million might pass. I still feel the best one would be fixing Eugene Field School. And as we've heard people talk about all the dilemmas there, they're all fixable. We can have a building like brand new for 5 million. This has been checked out. I'm not going to beat the drums for that, however, tonight. I'm going to say that we have a solution if we want to go for 15 million. I think the key to this is, do we get the approval of the rural schools that they will go along with it? Because they're being left in the cold. Every time we make a step on this thing, they're out in the cold. We need to make that choice. We need to bring them in and have a really good meeting where all the participants can make some decisions in this regard. We talk about the facilities. We need to do a better job of maintaining what we have. Right after the bond in May of 2013, I presented a 17-page document, or actually it was before that, a 17-page document to you that said we needed to fix the ventilation on the roof, we needed to fix the ventilation in the crawl space, we needed to fix downspouts that weren't working. This stuff has not been done, and it's terrible that should be the case. There was one leak in the gym that had been there for over a year that finally got fixed for probably $100, but before last summer, I sent a recommendation to the administration that said we should put a heating system in to take care of this ventilation problem in Eugene Field School. $350,000 is the number I remembered. but we didn't do anything about that either. So we just keep going on. We can't keep ignoring these problems. We need to look for the future. Now, if we were able to find that a solution by Robert Frost School, which actually was a proposal that we were looking at 25 years now, it would consolidate all the elementary schools in one location. It works. I studied the sewer line would work. If we were able to put it there, we would then have the ability to have a lower rate of cost. I think it's
1 minute.
just over, that's fine, it's just over $1 rate per thousand. So it'd be very similar to the proposal you were stating about the $3, which wasn't quite accurate. But if we were to do that, at the end of the 12th year, then we could take a real serious look at Slater and to be converting it into the junior high school. And we sure not be tearing it down in the meantime, because it has, as young Bruckner says, it's got good bones, and it does have concrete in it. All the corridors are concrete. The floor on the second floor is concrete in the corridor. It's a very solid building. It didn't have any cracks in it after the earthquake that we had in '93, whereas another wing to the east had cracks in it. So you need to look at this, and we have the conditions are available, and we can't be waiting. We can't slow down. It's something we need to do now so that next summer we can start a facility and be out of Eugene Field School if that's what we need to do by the next school period.
Okay, questions for Gene? Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi there, my name is Jacob Klotfelter. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, much like Eric Rappe, but there was a few comments that I just, I had to kind of comment on. The assertion that, the engineers haven't been hired, the information's not out there, I've heard that several times tonight. While Mr. Johnson was speaking, it took me about a minute to find the ZCS engineering report on the district website. Estimates as to how much it would cost to fix Eugene Field in its current state, how much it would cost to improve Eugene Field, and how much it would cost to replace Eugene Field in its entirety. The information's out there. It's our responsibility to go find it. You guys have put it out there for everybody. It's there. We just need to go look at it. Secondly, the comparison with the Salem-Keizer School District, it's apples and oranges. There's 140,000 people between Salem and Keizer. There's a good amount of industry in Salem. So, that comparison just doesn't hold water. And that doesn't even take into consideration that Salem, if I'm not mistaken, every 2 years, they evaluate their attendance boundaries. That's something we don't do. I mean, I can already see people rolling their eyes behind me when we talk about attendance boundaries. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe several years ago, Salem-Keizer consolidated a bunch of schools and closed a bunch of buildings. So again, I mean, I dare you guys to take that route. Something that, something, yeah, I mean, so you get where I'm going. The comparison to the Salem-Keizer School District it's not even apples and oranges. It doesn't fly. So anyways, those were my comments. And again, I thank all you guys and lady for your time. I understand you're all volunteers, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Jacob. Anyone else? Mr. Hector.
Chair Roth, members of the board, for the record, my name is Ken Hector.
310 Apple in Silverton. And I'm here only to respond to Mr. Johnson's comments relative to the city's interest in purchasing, and apparently, if I heard him correctly, there's some active interest in purchasing the Eugene Field property. I've been on the city council for almost 29 years, and during that time, there have been discussions relative to that property, more specifically to the adjacent piece, which is, quote, the ball field that the city is on record as looking for a place for a police department and possibly eventually a new city hall. However, at no time, other than the ball field that I mentioned, and that was a case of ultimately concluding after studies were done that it was insufficient size-wise to house the needs of a new police facility. But the city has absolutely had no formal discussions, only passing discussions, nothing formal, relative to the acquisition of the Eugene Field property. And I think it's important to dispel whatever rumor or whatever notion Mr. Johnson might have about that, because that's very misleading to the public to understand that we might be somehow looking. Ultimately, will there be a new city facility? I'm certain there will be down the road, but in all likelihood, it would not be. The closest I recall is that many years ago, and I think those of you who are around will remember, there was some discussion about a public acquisition, a private acquisition, if you will, of Eugene Field. There was a gentleman leading an arts group, not from our town, that came in and talked about we can build this big art facility with a mixed use and all of that, and it turned out to be nothing more than a lot of discussion. Maybe at some point in time there will be an interested party that will look at that, because it is a wonderful piece of property and would potentially have great use and probably in a mixed-use facility. Quite frankly, if it was to sell, I would hate to see it become city property, because it is such a valuable piece, and to take that off the tax rolls would not be a real smart thing. It could be, however, in a mixed-use development, something that would be very beneficial. But just in conclusion, we're not looking to buy Eugene Field. I'm not even sure we would take it if you gave it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone else? Yeah.
I have to think of my address for a second. Okay, as I was listening to people speak and somehow I lost my notes, how does that happen?
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Rena Wagner, and I am speaking today as a private citizen, but I am a teacher at Eugene Field currently. And I wanted to come and address you. I was taking notes as different people were speaking, and I wanted to start off by saying thank you. Thank you, each one of you, for this difficult job that you're doing and the hard work that you do. For the benefit of the audience, I wanted to share that I've been working for the district for 22 years. I've taught in many of our schools, both in town and rural. My children have attended schools both in town and rural, and I appreciate the opportunities that our district affords the children, no matter where you live, and the choices that parents are allowed to make. That being said, I want to affirm all of the many great ideas that have been presented tonight, and I do that because I know you think they're good ideas too, because I've watched you do them all. As one of my many roles in the district for over 2 years, I attended most board meetings, public sessions here and the work sessions at the high school or wherever your office happened to be at the time, or the district office has been. And I've watched you go through engineering reports. I've watched you listen to public testimony. I've observed all these great ideas. And I trust you that you are going to make a good decision for the benefit of our children. I've watched you be involved in the community, and I've watched you reach out for public input. I have to say, this current bond measure, I've never seen a public entity try to get as much input as you guys did this time. I was contacted as a staff member, I was contacted by mail as a citizen, and I was contacted as a parent. I had plenty of opportunity to give you my opinion, and I appreciate that. I also know that you are fiscally conservative. Again, I've sat across from you at the negotiating table. I've worked for you for many years during tough times and good times. I have one recent example of your conservatism is when we went through the most recent economic crash, or whatever you want to call it, when districts were cutting 14 days a year, when districts were going to a 4-day school week. We kept a full week and we only cut 6 days. We were one of the few districts that cut a minimum amount of time, and that's to your credit for being careful with the tax dollars that you're put in charge of. And so now I'm going to ask you, though, having watched this and watched your leadership, to stand by your decision to close Eugene Field. Because, again, I trust you. I trust you that you're going to do what you were elected to do. Personally, as a citizen, I elected you to wade through the information that has been presented, that I've watched be presented to you, to make informed decisions, which I believe that you do, and to put the needs of our students first. And again, I want to thank you for all of your hard work and time that you invest in this position and in our community.
Thank you, Rena. Anyone else? Yeah.
Can we speak twice?
No, I prefer. Sorry about that, but.
Second round.
My name is Carol Hendricks. I'm a 30-year resident of Silverton. I'm also a co-owner of some old houses that we've refurbished that are in excellent condition, and I've lived in one for most of the 30 years. And I guess what I wanted to say, and also my husband and I built a new house in the last 2 years. We had air quality problems. I had sinus infections 3 different times. We fixed the problem. We had to add some features to our heating system. It was based on outgassing of new construction materials. And I want to say that from what I see, voters by a wide range margin have twice rejected the district's plan for abandoning Eugene schools, Eugene Field. They've said no, in talking to various people who voted against the bond, they've said no to the plan of abandoning Eugene Field. They've said no to neglecting the needs of rural schools. They've said no to expensive solutions, and they've said no to letting our assets fall into disrepair. Driving by Eugene Field, there are obvious signs of disrepair in the building just by a drive-by. I understand that pretty much everyone here agrees that something needs to be done about it. I understand that there's been a respected construction company that's put forth some detailed bids, which suggests that Eugene Field could be remediated at a reasonable cost, including plumbing, electrical, seismic upgrades, for which there are some state grants available. Heating and air quality and roofs, gutters, and vent problems. So what I would like to see is some additional local bids and a bond measure to fix the problem and also provide for resources for the rural schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on to a couple discussion items. Food Services Management Vendor Proposal, Sodexo Education. We have a couple representatives from Sodexo here tonight, John Stone and Greg Johnson. I was going to ask you guys to come forward if you could, and just in case we had any questions. We, just for the public's input, Sodexo is a food services group that we've been looking at partnering with to provide management services for our food services Food Services Department. We had a presentation by Scott, our business manager, at our last work session about this, so the board has already gotten some information on this, but this is just a chance for us to ask these guys any questions or some further discussion, because this is an action item later tonight. So, anybody have any questions for these guys? Or is there anything you guys want to start out with or open up with? Or
I just, we look forward to the opportunity of working with the school district. I oversee all of our partnerships in the state of Oregon. We serve 25 partnerships, school districts in the state of Oregon. We have long-term partnerships of over 30 years with many of our districts. So, we look forward to working with your school district and your community.
I just had a couple questions. Do you guys, because we're talking about doing management services only.
Yep.
We'll still keep our own employees and
The employees
all that
still
kind
remain,
of stuff. Yeah.
Silverton, Silver Falls School District employees, yeah.
Do you guys do that with other districts? And how many?
Probably
or-
half of my districts are just management only, and half of them are full service.
Okay, okay. And then one of the reasons we've looked at doing this is to try to get increased participation by students. Have you guys seen that where you've taken over? Have you seen increased participation?
That's one of the
Students
main
buying
reasons
lunches?
why districts hire us, is to provide better variety, better nutrition, some marketing programs, just to encourage higher participation levels for students. So in every district that we've taken over management, we've seen participation increases from 5, 10, 15% and up, yeah.
Okay, okay. Other questions?
Do you have a target participation rate? Is there, have you gotten deep enough into our district to have an idea on that?
The one thing, it's mid-year into the district, we looked at possibly 10% as a target right out of the gate, to see if we can get participation up 10% in the next, between now and June. And then obviously look to see if we can increase that even more next year.
Okay.
Do you see any challenges in getting this, I was reading through your report about some variety options at some of our smaller rural schools with smaller populations, and how do you have a variety with a lower, with just the lower numbers of students out there?
We work in districts that have schools that have, less than 70 kids and still manage to provide variety.
Okay.
So it's just, working with the staff, finding out what the kids like and just meeting those needs.
So in terms of performance, so we can actually see that you've made a difference for us, what are some of the parameters you think we should be looking at? Participation levels, obviously one, and we talked about, I would think, cost. What are some other things you guys look at?
Well, we look at satisfaction, so we'll do surveys of the students, we'll do surveys of the staff, we'll do surveys of the actual principals in the schools to look at satisfaction. It's a really key indicator. And then obviously participation rates are important as well. And then obviously financial, we want to make sure that the program is cost effective, so it's not taking money from the general fund. So, in talking to Scott in earlier discussions, we'll make sure that we provide the board with a regular update, monthly update on some key, key metrics and key indicators that we measure performance on.
Good.
Very good. Other questions? Okay.
I'm looking forward to this. I think this is really a good thing for us.
Yeah, the handout we got in our packet from you guys was very impressive, and I might be stopping by schools to eat lunch. No, it looked very impressive, and I'm looking forward to that.
And we have a lot, we have a lot of resources to be able to bring to your food service staff to help them become more successful. That's our key focus.
Yeah.
What have you guys seen just in general with the new federal
New federal regs?
Yeah, it's kind of the kids don't seem to like it. I'm making sandwiches every morning now. The kids don't like it.
It's been a challenge. There was they took a very good national school lunch program that was not broken and tried to do something different with it. And so we're wading through the challenges. Trying to find solutions to bring participation back up. Nationwide, they noted about a 10% drop nationwide in participation rates across the country due to the new regulations. So we're seeing some softening of the regulations, and we're also looking at, again, ways to navigate within them and still keep the palatability of the food up. So where the kids want to eat it. But it's been a challenge, yeah.
One of their goals, and I always like to argue things from the other side, was one of their goals was trying to get overweight and obesity rates down. And have you guys seen any data? Is that, okay, my kids are complaining about it, but is it working?
You know, they are seeing some positive feedback and positive data regarding that. But really, it's not in what the students are eating at school. It's what's happening outside of school and you know, physical activity and what they're eating at the fast food restaurants and things like that. Because school lunch has always been very, very healthy. So.
I saw in your literature that something along the lines, you're going to make sure there's age-appropriate size of entrees.
Yeah.
And I think you were targeting at make sure you don't feed them too much, but on the other side, I hear a lot of older kids not getting enough food.
Yeah, and that's the big challenge. It's not necessarily the smaller kids or the elementary or the middle school kids, it's the high school kids. Because there are certain limitations on the amount of food that can be served, the amount of calories that can be served in a day. So that caps the amount of food that can be offered to any student.
Right.
It seems to be more than enough for elementary and middle school kids, but you get, high school football players, it's not enough for them. So, we try to offer other things that they can buy separately if they want to supplement those meals. But that is a difficult challenge, yeah.
Anything else?
I just have one comment.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for the kind words about the anticipation of us coming to the district. Want to add that John and I both had an opportunity to meet and greet a number of the folks in various spots, various sites, various school sites during our tour. And you've got very, very wonderful, wonderful people. And that's really where it starts. So kind words from you, kind words from us in return. We cannot wait to engage the employees furthermore.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed just with the level of engagement from your staff out in the schools. They truly care about their jobs and they truly care about what they're doing for kids. Also, Scott has been very thorough in his process and his due diligence, so I appreciate that as well. So.
And I appreciate you giving up your evening tonight, joining us here.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
No problem.
No comments about Eugene Fields.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that was the only discussion item on our agenda tonight. Under other items, I kind of wanted to make sure the board had a chance, because of all the input we've heard tonight, and I wanted to just give everybody, the board a chance to do a little discussion about the Eugene Field situation, if anybody wanted to. And I had a couple thoughts just to lead off, and if nobody wants to say anything, that's totally fine. We have our work session next week, so. Just a couple things that I had thought of. We've received a lot of input on how to address the Eugene Field situation, and this input is very much welcomed and appreciated. I think it's also important to remember how we've gotten to the place we're at. This board has done extensive work over the last couple of years, from having Eugene Field analyzed by qualified experts to getting lots of public input through surveys and the visioning process. We already have a good base of accurate information to move forward with a decision. The Eugene Field Task Force that met a year ago recommended closure of the building, and this board unanimously adopted those recommendations. Our board goals for this year reflect the priority we have placed on Eugene Field. Goal number 2 states, administer district facility plan with priority emphasis on discontinued use of Eugene Field. I think it's important to remember these decisions and kind of remember the past. For me, I know when I get a lot of input, I kind of tend to forget where we've been sometimes. So I kind of wanted to reflect on that a little bit of this stuff. We also went through the district visioning process this past year, and this process produced district core values, a mission statement, and strategic goals centered around community schools and student achievement. So I think it's very important that we keep these core values in front of us as we make these decisions, and all the decisions for the district for that matter. I just think it's really important to keep those core values and the district core values not even in the back of our minds, out in front of us. So that's why we did that, to kind of guide us where we're headed. So those are just a few thoughts that I had thought of over the weekend. But I did want to give, if anybody has any input or anything that they wanted to talk about tonight. If not, like I said, we have our work session next week. So.
Well, I think the core values are really important. The board has made some decisions in the past couple of years, and the community has not accepted those decisions. So I guess I'll say what I said before. In many ways, we're back where we started. We know a lot more, and once again, I'll say that no one on either side of the issue about the future of Eugene Field has suggested that we should continue to use that building and that school in its current condition. I think that's the key issue. Its current condition is deplorable, and it needs to be remedied or closed. But I think we need to look hard at remedying it. I think we need to do what is affordable and acceptable to the taxpayers. So.
I'd say the two elections really told us a story. It's something we needed to hear. We started out with the first election, two most recent elections. The first one, we had a much larger bond proposal where we were going to do a lot of work in the outlying schools and as well as getting out of Eugene Field. That bond measure failed. And then this latest one, it failed by almost the same margin, and that was a much reduced bond proposal where it was very much concentrated on getting out of Eugene Field. So I heard loud and clear that we need to avoid raising taxes. We need to use our resources and come up with some alternative plans to move out of Eugene Field. I think that's where we need to head.
I kind of heard a different, I'm not quite sure what to think. You know, during the last bond, is especially during the last one, I heard a lot of people who wanted to vote yes on something. And I think the yeses are there. I'm really concerned about this going to the modulars. I'm not quite sure how many we're going to have. I think that's why we're seeing the community Ritz folks there, because I'm not sure how many modular classrooms we're going to put there. We're currently talking about going and visiting Jervis and using their style of modulars that they put in. And when we say modulars, most people think temporary. These are not going to be temporary. They're going to be there a long time. We got a YouTube video of them putting them in. It's real quick. It's hard to see. It's real far away. But one of the things I noticed on it was the windows. Each classroom is probably going to have a window, maybe 2 of those, as far as I could tell from this. No natural light. I remember one of the conditions for, I was at a long-range task force committee, and they were going on and on and on about natural light, natural light, natural light. There's some real big windows at Eugene Field. And I'm not saying Eugene Field's in a good shape. It's a mess. But I'm really concerned that we're going to be going down a road to where people are going to think that we're going into modulars, and it's just going to be a temporary thing, and in 12 years or 10 years, we'll pass them on and we'll get out of there. If we do that, I'm concerned that that's a landmine for the next bond, and we'll never get it passed, because if you have a bond that says get those out of there, just as people complain about building a high school in 2 phases now, that's going to be this hidden landmine, and people are going to say we paid money for those things. Why are we doing it again? And I just really think out the cost of what the educational effectiveness of that site is going to be for the long-term life of that system. We're going to be there a while if we go that route. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. We need to really think it through for a long time. The kids are going to be there. Part of the site that we're using, I've been going through lots of old reports, and in that long-range task force committee, there was a quick blurb in there about the city, possibly being interested in the site, just like what Ken said, but nothing official. But one of the things I also ran onto, I should have brought the page, it wasn't. During the Scotts Mills earthquake, there was a few cracks in the gym or buildings that attached to the gym, but one of the other damaged portions of the building that we're thinking about reusing is the 2 or 3 classrooms along Schlater Street, and those windows up above broke. The only real damage to that site is the part we're going to use. They have in that report, this is like 20 years old, they've got costs to fix all that and strengthen it up, but we've got to get out of Eugene Field because it's not earthquake sound, and we're going to go to a building that's not earthquake sound. it's better than Eugene Field as is, clearly. That's not, an argument. But what I'm concerned is that we're going to feel pressure to get there again. There's a lot of, so I want, as we go down this road looking, I am not going to vote to close Eugene Field until we have a safe place in line to put those kids. And let's figure out what that is. On the way in today, I pulled over and I called Larry Dalkey from Dalkey Construction. And he would love to give everybody, and whoever's interested, a tour of some of the old schools they've worked on in Salem, Kaiser, some other places they've done 9 of them. Cost nothing. And it's just that we had this standard of, and I don't really fault for doing it. I think it was just a miscalculation, thinking we were going to get a bond passed to completely take down Eugene Field and build something new. But we don't have that now. And anytime somebody came up with a different opinion, we said it doesn't meet the current educational standard. Well, what we're going to do at Slater now will not meet the current educational standard. So if we've lowered that standard, we need to lower the standard for redoing Eugene Field. And I think it needs a fresh look at the same time that we're looking at Slater and think about effectiveness and cost effectiveness. I think there's a possibility you could pass a bond. If we go to modulars, we're paying for it for general funds, and we're not going to have it, and that means teachers. We're going to lose staff. So I think I've. Oh, and I want to go throughout our work session some of the financing, how the last bond was financed. We were using some deferred interest. I think zero coupon bonds. I'd like to look more into that with. We got some information from Piper Jaffray, and I kind of sometimes am upset with them. I think the information they sent us did not have all the information. And anyway, I'm done rambling.
Yeah, Tom, just a couple responses. If we were to use the Schlater property, the single wings along James Street and Schlater, there would be upgrades done to those. We're not going to put kids in there with issues that have popped up. We're not going to do that. No, and you also talked about lower educational standards and lowering the standards. That's whatever we do is going to have to suffice for to get kids what they need these days. Oh, yes. And even at a temporary solution. And I like what people have said tonight about having a temporary solution, but also a long range. We need to have a long range solution also, but.
Tim, I guess what I want to make clear is that whatever solution we put out, I'd like to think about the possibility of bonding for that, so we don't got to cut teachers.
Yeah, well, personally, I'm not interested in going for another bond anytime soon. And that goes to my opinion. Eric said everybody has a different opinion about why the bond failed. My opinion is people don't want their taxes to go up. And my opinion is people are asking that we work with what we have. And that's my opinion.
I think we have an opportunity to do that. I think because the single-story Schlater wing, we can meet today's standards without a problem. And I think we're probably, as far as modulars goes, if we go to stick with standard modulars and not go with what Jervis is putting up, I think we're looking at a maximum of 5 modulars. And we could, those don't necessarily all need to be at Schlater Street. We could possibly put K2 at Robert Frost. We could put a couple modulars at Mark Twain and go 3-5 there. Put maybe 3 more at Schlater and get junior high at Schlater Street.
Fair enough. I heard, and I'm going to be. I was a no on the first one. I was a no on the second one. I didn't campaign. Apparently, my instincts were more correct. I think I'm correct when I say people want to vote yes on something. I'm just going to leave it at that. There are some people that there are a lot of no's that wanted to vote yes on something. And I think we ought to do some work at our work session and take a good pause over Christmas break and see where we're at.
So one more thing, if I may.
No.
Go ahead. No, that doesn't work. One of the conversations that we haven't had, 2 conversations really, we don't have a comprehensive understanding of the costs associated with the reuse of the Schlater Street campus. No matter how many modulars we purchase, we really don't know what the costs there are. And I think, to me, it feels like we're wading into the unknown here. It could be waist deep, it could be neck deep, it could turn out to be over our heads. And the other conversation that we haven't had as a community and as a board are the ramifications of using money from the general fund to pay off debt. Borrowing money at interest and paying it out of the general fund automatically means that we're going to have to reduce, we're going to have some reduction somewhere. The general fund pays for instructional costs and associated costs. So when you tap into the general fund and you have a downturn in educational funding, such as we've seen repeatedly in the roller coaster that is funding for education in our state and across our nation, you're taking a terrible risk with your instructional program if you go down that road. So whatever we do, I absolutely favor another bond attempt and not to take the money out of the instructional reserves that we have. The general fund is the wrong place to fund facilities.
Just a quick response, David. We are getting some cost information. I know Joel and Andy have been working on some costs for doing some work at Schlater.
For next week.
For next week, I think.
Good.
So, anybody else?
Well, I'll say a few things. I think one of the things we haven't heard is any staff member from Eugene Field come and say that they think that we should slow down and bide our time and think harder and like delay it all. In fact, we've heard exactly the opposite from the Teachers Association and from the staff at Eugene Field. So I think it's important that we don't delay and that we. And to me, what that means is oftentimes you have to set some deadlines in order to get things done. Without a deadline, there's no immediacy, we can drag it out and drag it out. So I don't know, I would like to see some serious thought put to some timing. And I know we've got a little bit of a chicken and egg problem perhaps if we want to look again at remediation. I'm a person that believes remediation can be done, but I'm convinced that cost is too high, and I think it's not the best place to put our money and to make a long-term investment in that site. I think we'd be a lot better off to make that investment at Schlater Street and other places in our district. However, obviously the taxpayers haven't approved the bond we've been out for. On a personal level, it is disappointing to me as a person who's been in business in the community for a long time and lives in the community here. I've sold lots and lots of houses, talked to lots and lots of people who've moved to our community specifically for the strength of our school district, and to hear from a lot of those people how disappointed they are in Eugene Field, how they really had a different impression of the city of Silverton, that we valued education, that now that they're here, that the community didn't support that investment. And so I guess I'm just personally disappointed that that's the case. I do understand not wanting to spend any more in taxes. I mean, I hate taxes myself. So, but that being said, I still believe that we need to spend a significant amount of money as a community to make an investment in our kids. The concept that we can do something for a few $1 million and make a significant long-term, good learning environment, that to me is a fantasy. And it's disheartening to me too, I guess, again, as a board member, having been to all of those facility planning committee meetings and having done this now for almost 4 years, to continually hear people state things as facts that are demonstrably not true. Things that we have been over and over in meetings, and I appreciate everybody coming and participating, but we would spend all night, like tonight, if we just went over and addressed one by one the statements that have been made by the community, that factual assertions, beliefs that people hold that are demonstrably not true, that are contained within and have been discussed, and the ideas, the concepts, and I would love to hear a new idea, a new thing that solves our problem, that silver bullet. But I guess I've come to a point where I don't want to be defeatist about this, but I've come to the point where my hope in a silver bullet just isn't there. I mean, we've got some hard things to do here, hard choices to make, and but that being said, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, for the people that are here anyways, my impression is that we have really been through, and I really appreciate Rena's comments tonight. We have been through this stuff. We've slogged through it. Many of your neighbors that have been involved in these meetings and the facilities task force have slogged through this stuff. There is, I'm not kidding you, a stack this thick of engineering and architectural reports about Schlater Street campus, about Eugene Field School. It's out there. I encourage you all to look at it, to read it, to see what the reality of it is. When I hear about conversations that people have had, they said, so-and-so told me this, and so-and-so said this.
Unified, almost every building in the district is worn out. So we're unified. We got a lot of facility needs, and unfortunately, we just can't build the whole darn district at once. We can't just pass a bond and just every 5 years pass a bond. You pass a bond, you got to pay the thing off, though. That's the hard part. And you know, we endeavored and we passed 2 high school bonds, a beautiful high school, and that serves the needs of a third of our students, and it will pay off in about 12 years. And at that point, it's completely paid off. You know, burn the mortgage papers, have a big party, but we'll be able to ask the voters for a pretty big chunk of money, and at that point we can rebuild another third of the district. That's a lot of real estate. That's a lot of facilities you can do at very strategic ends of the district. And I guess I just want to make sure I see that, and we're in real tough times because we have a lot of debt. We have a lot of facility needs to fix, but we'll get there. We will get there.
Thanks, Tom.
So people are asking for a long-term solution, and there's been 2 failed bond attempts. You need money to do those long-term solutions. So now we're looking at short-term solutions for the next 12 years to band-aid the problem. And there's a lot of opinions out there, and there's a lot of emotion right now. And I think stepping back a little bit, even though, I want everybody out there tomorrow, but you don't have, if you just do a quick fix, put everybody in a module, I don't know if that's going to be something that people are going to look at 12 years from now going, well, you put us in a module and now we don't need to do anything else for the next bond. They're doing fine. I mean, just like right now, they're doing fine. I find it very frustrating at this point because I really believe the kids deserve better, and I really value education and a good educational environment, but I don't see us doing a new bond anytime in the near future because it's been very clear that people don't want to pay for that education for the kids at this point in that kind of environment. So I don't have a good solution. I feel very frustrated at the moment, but I'm still like hearing everybody's opinions and giving us more information out there, but it's not going to be something that I see us doing immediately because there's not an immediate solution with the amount of funds we have.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We will move on. Administrator and staff report. Scott, financials.
Right. Well, in your board packet, you'll see a 3-page board financial report. The first page is your operating statement for the general fund for both the period of October and then year to date as well. Second page of that is the general fund by school. Has both the carryover retention, the money subject to carryover, and the subject not to carryover.
And thanks for including that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. And we put percentages. I know last month there was a question for year-to-date percentages. And then finally, the third page is your fund balances report, which has your beginning balances, your revenues, transfers, and ending fund balance. So unless there's any questions, and also if we're still
having a couple of areas of adjustment to make that a little bit more readable for you. But if you have any ideas or suggestions, certainly open to hearing about those.
Questions for Scott? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmer, Butte Creek.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, good evening, everybody. Here to talk tonight a little bit about Butte Creek and also some district attendance figures that are assigned to me. We have about 329 kids at Butte Creek today, and after Christmas break, we'll have number 330 move in. That's a for sure. Maybe some more along with them. Usually Christmas break is that moving time, but it's kind of interesting. 329 kids is 19 more than this time last year, but 48 more than this time 2 years ago. So quite a growth spurt at Butte Creek. We also welcome 6 new staff members, terrific staff members this year. I'd like to just read them off. First grade teacher Gretchen Cox, middle school social studies teacher Travis Woodside, our new ELD teacher Carly First, media assistant Angie Garcia, assistant cook Tika Kaiser, and custodian Florentino Cuevas. And although we started off with just one student teacher all fall from Western Oregon, again, after January, we have 4 hitting us. So big growth there too. So we'll have 5 student teachers. We've had some great after-school activities. Stacy Boost and her VEX robotics program has expanded to include VEX IQ, which is kind of the starter program that you roll into VEX then with that. And they're very successful. They just had a tournament and did very well this past Saturday. So 19 kids taking part in robotics, as well as AKA Science, which is for kindergarten through 3rd graders, an after-school paid tuition program that Cindy McKinney, our 2nd grade teacher, has run for a number of years. And we have 17 kids with about 6 or 7 on a waiting list. So we're going to try to run 2 sessions here in the winter term. As some dates, our Russian dinner. I'll talk a little bit about Russian class later, but that'll be January 16th at 6 p.m. So you can put that on your calendar. It's a Friday night. And then you see some auction dates, volunteer hours, and our attendance rate just hanging on 95.02, just above. Under academic programs, this is year 2 for Butte Creek as well as Victor Point and Evergreen with the physical education expansion grant that we got from ODE. And so we've had Sierra Kester is in that position again as our primary grade PE teacher, and along with Jeff Seiler, we're able to offer PE class with a real PE teacher to every student at Butte Creek every single day of the week, which has really resulted in great things out there, not only for their physical fitness, but their performance in the classroom as well. Teachers notice it, parents notice it. And kids love having PE every day, so the goal is to continue to have that program. You only get funded 2 years and that's it. Then they expect you to continue the program. So that we will certainly try to do. Math lab continues, kind of modeled after the high school's math lab in our middle school. And you can kind of see, if you pop back up to the first bullet, the 8th graders last year, kind of in their final Oaks go-round in math, had increased from 48% passing as 7th graders to 87% as 8th graders. So the math lab, those kids are in math lab that need that help. And it's paying off for them. Our summer experience, we were able to do summer school again. This past year, we had 47 kids take part, an average attendance of 41 per day, 87% attendance overall. I guess it's summertime. And but 20 kids had perfect attendance. And I've brought you kind of figures put together by Title I teacher Libby Fascia on the difference of when we have summer school and when we don't, and what a difference it makes for the kids' reading ability in between spring and summer of the next year. So I can bring some more information this year. But we were really happy to have summer experience again. Russian class in our 5th year. On the back side, there are just some details. We have more kids taking Russian class than ever before. We have 48 kids enrolled right now at the after-school programs and the daily elective class for the middle school kids. So the Russian dinner, again, on January 16th, served about 600 meals, give or take. Last year was the largest ever. So come on out on the 16th and enjoy some Russian food and culture. And we began band after school with Tim Duffy. He does this, I believe, also at Central Howell and Scotts Mills. So we have 5 kids that were brave, and they decided to join the band. So he meets every Wednesday for an hour with these 5 kids, and so we hope to start small and grow from there. And they will also do a small performance on the 19th at our Christmas program at the high school. So they'll find a way to fit them in to play a piece or two.
Very nice.
So, good. Yeah, it's great to walk through there at 4 o'clock and hear kids playing their band instruments. So we're enjoying it and hope it goes from there. I always mention to you guys kind of where our Mentor for Success programs are and our holiday food baskets. Debbie Scott runs the Mentor for Success. Those are staff mentors, and she gets a couple mentors from the Abbey that come each year. But by and large, it's staff members, classified and licensed, that take on 1 or 2 or more kids to mentor them throughout the school year. And so 33 students benefit from having a mentor relationship right now. And holiday food baskets and Giving Tree, which is a long-time effort at Butte Creek, will be helping 20 families this year with food and wrapped gifts at Christmas time. This is where the families come and adopt other families for the holidays, provide them with everything they would want kind of on their Christmas wish list. And then on the bottom side of the back page, my responsibility is to report on September attendance. So first month attendance for the school year. And I know Dandy gave you guys some information on that back in the November work session as well. But this might be a little bit different. Sandy Sprower was able to get this for me. So this is every school and their attendance during the month of September, but then October and November as well, and cumulative. So you can kind of take a snapshot. It's not broken down by grade level. I didn't ask her at the time to get last year's for each one, but we've talked in our school. We keep a bulletin board at Butte Creek that has September last year and September this year with a bar graph, so we can compare and the whole school can see it. So I think I will ask Sandy to get me those. She said she would send me the monthly attendance figures, and we'll compare them against last year's. Last year's district-wide for the month of September was about 95.49, so it went up a little bit, 95.91. But you can kind of see where all the schools are in the district, not only in the first month, but each month subsequent so far.
That's good information, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? Great, thank you very much.
Well, I
Kevin.
actually have one quick question.
Sure.
I think if I remember correctly, your capacity at Butte Creek was 300. Is that correct?
I think
So
it's
you're-
like 335.
Okay, so you're right about at capacity right now.
It's going to have to be 335.
Well, I guess my next step in my question is, I think you're a little bit over capacity right now, so.
Yeah, a little bit. You know,
your class sizes and how's that look?
It really depends on the class, on the grade. You know, like fifth grade, we have a 24. We have two classes in the fifth grade. One has 24, the other has 20. So those aren't overcrowded. Our two eighth grade classes, one has 22, the other has 21. Those are great size for eighth grade. Our sixth grade is a single classroom, has 34 kids. That's a big class. Our third grade is single with 31. Then you look at our two second grade classes, 22 and 23. Not bad. So it really just depends on what that grade level is. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Hannon, Silverton High School. Thanks, Mark.
Good evening. What I've provided you is a copy of our current report card, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but I did want to give you some data regarding what our student body looks like as of today. Our current enrollment is 1,243 students, which is one more than this time last year, so our growth is relatively flat. Our free and reduced lunch number is 518, which is about 42% of our population. That's approximately the same percentage as it was last year. 173 special ed students, which is approximately 14% of our student population, and 8 ELD kids. So I've kind of been interested in why our ELD numbers have gone down over the years, and I think it's mainly based on the wonderful efforts of our elementary schools. They're exiting those students prior to getting to high school, and those families are staying in this community, and by the time they get to Silverton High School, they're no longer in need of services. That's just an opinion. I haven't done any quantifiable studies, but it seems to be what's happening. Our report card, we again received an overall score of 4. That means compared to other high schools with similar demographics, that's an above average score. Our overall weighted percentage, I highlighted for you on page 1 of 9, which is this year's report card. On the back of that page is last year's report card, and each page that you have is in that format. You'll see our weighted percentage was 76.7% for this most recent report card. Last year's report card was 73.3%. Keep in mind that the report card compares different kids. So we're not comparing growth. We're comparing completely different students. However, I think it's important to continue to move the bar up, and regardless of who the student body is taking the test. And you'll see that it appears that we are doing that. On the next page are the reading math scores. And I've highlighted what our all students number is, and you can go through on your own time and look at the disseminated subgroups there. 92% met in reading as opposed to 86% last year. 80% in math as opposed to 74%. Again, different students, but definitely moving in the right direction. Graduation, obviously different graduation cohort. Our cohort graduation rate is 85%. It was 77.7% the previous year. That's definitely a number that we want to continue to move towards 100%, which is what our long-term goal is.
Congratulations on that one, by the way.
Thank you.
That was well above.
Yeah, I'd like to take credit for that, but I certainly can't. We have amazing teachers, and one thing that I will say, and this is the only thing I'll say about this. I've sat here all night and listened to a lot of input, and the facility makes a difference. And it makes a difference at Silverton High School. And it makes me feel sad that there are community members that look at passing the bond that built that beautiful structure as a negative, because I live in it every day and I see what it does for our students, and we should wear it as a badge of honor.
Thank you, Mark.
I also included participation rates. As you recall, a couple of years ago, that was an issue, and just wanted to show that 99% in reading took the test. That was one student, by the way, of one exam, and then we had a 100% participation rate in math. And actually, those were flip-flopped the year before. So that's the report card. I sent out the website link for parents to access this report in our November newsletter. So we met the legislative requirement to provide that for parents, and we also have hard copies available for those folks that would prefer a hard copy. On to the College Credit Now statistics. I highlighted Silverton High School on that, and I think this is an interesting report because you'll note quite a few schools that are within our local area, and we have a lot of students earning a lot of credits and saving a lot of money. And the thing that I'm most encouraged of with respect to College Credit Now is we are very close to being able to provide students the opportunity to earn an associate's degree following a particular graduation track at Silverton High School.
That's great.
The next page, I put this in there because, as you recall, personal finance was a personal thing for me to make that a graduation requirement. I've lived here a long time and actually took personal finance at Silverton High School, and it was removed as a graduation requirement, and I wanted to bring that back, and I appreciated you folks allowing me to do that, because the reason that I provided this rubric is it shows you the financial literacy standards that we will address in this class. And there are many important classes at Silverton High School, but this one ranks near the top. Lastly, before I get to the district goals, I just wanted to mention, and based on, again, action you folks took regarding our calendar, we've got the State FFA Convention coming up March 20th through the 23rd. That's the Friday prior to spring break, and actually school is off that day. The convention will take place that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into the following Monday. We recently met, Mr. Blando and myself and FFA teachers and Glenn Goshi and Joel and Helen Fetch, and we're starting to plan for that invasion of people into Silverton High School. And we anticipate about 2,000 students coming to visit Silverton High School, and we're going to showcase that beautiful school.
Need to build a motel.
And lastly, in terms of the district goals, 100% of K-12 students will be on track to graduate. That's what we are striving for. The performance indicator that I'm responsible for is having ninth grade students earn 6 credits or more. And I provided there for you what that's looked like for the past 5 years. For the school year of 2009-10 and 2010-11, I also provided the cohort graduation rates. You'll note that the smaller number in 10-11 of students finishing with 6 credits or more correlates to a higher graduation rate. So I don't have any understanding of correlating those numbers, but I do know that we are moving towards getting 100% of our ninth graders to have 6 credits or more. We do believe that that's part of the reason that our graduation numbers are the way they are, because our ninth graders are being successful. The interventions we use there are parent conferences and counselor meetings, administrator meetings, online remediation. And one of the things that I did want to note tonight regarding our parent conferences, because of the new calendar this year, we tried something new at the high school. We continued on Tuesday our arena style conferences that we've always done, but on Monday I asked teachers to provide us a list of the top 8 students that they needed to meet with parents, and we made appointments with parents. And I have the data sitting in an email at work that I haven't had a chance to go through, but just from feedback from the teachers, it was wildly successful in terms of getting in front of parents that normally may not attend in the old format. We still provided that format for anyone to come. You could have attended both if you were chosen to attend the first night. But the first, my experience when I was at Victor Point, if you had an appointment, you were a lot less apt to not attend than if you don't have an appointment. So we're going to expand that next year and hopefully include more than just the top 8 students of each teacher. Every student will attend 95% or more school days. We've got a lot of work to do there. As you can see, the last 5 years, we have about half of our students attending 95% or more of the days. Now, fortunately, most of the students remaining are attending 94, 93, 92, keeping our 92 number for our report card. But we have some work to do there, and we're doing a lot of work right now. I addressed it in my first newsletter that we were going to emphasize attendance. Parent conferences, we had a letter for every student that was not attending 95% at that point that went to parents with their grades. We make phone calls daily, phone calls by advisory group teachers, classroom teachers, administration, counselor meetings. We've even done home visits this year, and then we've also tried rewards that sometimes work and sometimes don't work. But this is an area that we feel very passionate about, because if we can get students inside our doors, we know they'll graduate. Doesn't matter who the student is, we'll get them to graduate, but they have to be there. And finally, the last of the visioning goals, 100% of teachers will be proficient or distinguished in the district standard for student engagement. We're currently working through that right now through observations and our meetings with teachers will be, in fact, they're taking place this week and next, so at the high school at least. I appreciate your time. It's been a long evening. I kind of felt like the person that spoke at a conference right before lunch. It's not a very popular time slot, but I appreciate what you do, and I'll entertain questions.
Mark, I just wanted to thank you for your attention to the personal finance class. I agree with you. I think that's one of the most important classes that students are going to exit the high school with. And I appreciate you making that a requirement. And I've heard great things about what's going on in that class this year. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's going to be good for kids. Yep. They need to know that stuff, and they don't always. Sometimes they learn things better from teachers than their parents. So. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah. How many kids are coming for the convention?
About 2,000.
Where are they all going to stay?
That's a really good question.
Salem and Woodburn.
Salem,
Yeah, it's a long drive.
Woodburn, Mount Angel. The garden is going to be packed. We're hoping that it's going to showcase the entire town. We'll be having conversations with the chamber. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to feed all of those folks, so that's going to be part of the conversations of do we bring vendors in, do we use school resources to provide that and use it as a fundraising campaign. A number of things are on the table there.
Even when they have conventions in Corvallis, there's schools that stay in Salem because it's closest they can get.
Oh,
So
yeah.
They're used to it.
They're just curious.
Are all the activities going to take place at the high school, or will there
Well,
be to use that?
that's a really good question. We're very fortunate. Ben Rue, a former student at Silverton High School, is going to be the Saturday night entertainment. He's a country western singer, and he will be bringing his band for this event. We haven't decided yet. We're looking at other venues because of his popularity, and the gym is not really set up to be a concert hall. So,
great.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks.
Oh, well, how many of the, I just got done, our local school, Scotts Mills, just had their performance at the auditorium. And how many of the outlying schools come in and use that for that?
I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I know Butte Creek, Kevin has used our facility since we opened, and it's seamless. They come in. They even do practices while we're in school, we've talked about it being open to any and all that want to do it. It provides a little bit of logistical play, but we've seemed to be able to work it out with Butte Creek, and that's one of our bigger elementary schools. So.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is it's a bit of a way to get over the hurt or whatever of the high school bond. I mean, it's expensive, but that's a nice facility. And I started out sitting on these hard aluminum bleachers in the Scotts Mills gym where it's cold, and then you come and there's 200 people there, and it's been 4 or 5 years they've been doing it there. You're sitting in a nice comfy chair, it's heated. They darn near filled it up. Little Scotts Mills darn near filled that thing up the other night. And it's a way for the older folks especially to come in, experience high school in a positive way, and because it's always been a kind of a minor gripe of mine that it's hidden from public view, and people can't see unless you have a kid there playing baseball, you don't see all the activity and all that. And any way you can get more people in there and seeing how nice that and watching their granddaughter perform on this huge stage, and it's just a good lots of little interactions is what's going to get you there.
Well, I encourage you to come and sit next to Lisa Roth, who manages our facilities, and take a look at the number of folks that are accessing that particular facility. You would be surprised. It's showcased almost daily.
Good. The building is used a lot on weekends.
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to you too, not directly, I guess, but as you're the head of the high school program there. As our students go out as well and compete or do performances, whatever, I was really impressed at the state championship football game by our students, by our staff, and actually by the community. In a really tough loss, our guys were helping kids up off the ground. That used to be, there was a time when that was fairly normal, and now you see, most of the time I watch for that, you see guys getting up, and especially after, you've lost the game pretty much, and you see people, just not acting like sportsmen. And I was really impressed that our team did that throughout, and it was really a fairly pleasurable game to be at, other than for the loss, to actually, and I thought Hermiston was really good too. So that doesn't happen enough anymore in even in high school sports. So it was good.
I appreciate that, and it's a reflection of amazing students. You probably hear that from me a lot, and it's true. We're very fortunate. I've worked in other districts, and we have great kids, and it's a definite reflection of Coach Mannion and his staff. That's just an expectation of how they operate, and those kinds of things are just the culture of his program. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, any board reports tonight? No? David? Okay. Didn't mean to cut anybody off. Correspondence, I know we've gotten a few emails here and there. Anything else, Andy? Okay. Second audience with visitors. Would anyone else like to address the board? If you've already spoken once, I'm going to ask that you keep your comments to 1 minute. I've done that before, and it seemed to work fairly well. So
I'm actually so eager to be here at these board meetings and work with you and help find solutions that I've mapped out my work schedule. And I unfortunately won't be able to come to another one until April. So I really hope that between now and April, you guys have made a lot of groundwork, and I wholeheartedly agree with what Owen said. You need timelines, deadlines, and I bring this up again not to be insulting to anyone, but maybe it is time to look at a consultant or to experts to help you. I think that you should all recognize your hard work and efforts for a school district that is so unique. I think it's fair to say you guys are more challenged with the rural schools and the way that our school district is compared to other school districts. So I just throw that out there that I would like to see there be clear direction, clear deadlines, and just get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Jim?
Yes, I'd like to make, I've already signed in. Thank you. I'd like to make a suggestion that the board consider in a less formal session some opportunity for people to get together, negotiate, especially in the next month or so, since we're in the holiday season. We could have a little bit of rum or something there. But anyway, to sit down in a less formal setting and simply put our heads together and try to come up with some solutions with the principal opposition, because there are principal people. There are very, very intelligent and very passionate people who have had a great deal of influence in the community, one way or the other of this, and I think we all know who they are. And getting in the same room with the people who maybe don't see things your way, and simply talking until you come to some kind of an understanding that you can both work towards could be the solution.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? Yeah.
My name is Joe Fleischman, Mayor-elect for City of Scotts Mills. So mainly coming up here this evening, listening to everybody. My role in becoming mayor was to listen to the city and the people that live within Scotts Mills and the surrounding communities. I also am a volunteer firefighter slash medical responder for Silverton Fire as well. So I'm very much rooted inside the city of Silverton as well. By doing so in both parties, in listening to the folks with Eugene Field, I have to say the pulse from my community and from the members that I've talked to within Silverton, Dave and both Tom, I think have a solid pulse on what's going on. There is a lot of mistrust with the board members and also the administration regarding the two past bond measures that have gone through. They feel that a lot of the information that is out for public view is either tainted or it's misguided to one way versus another way, instead of all of the information being available. Now, that may be true, that may be not. I'm just telling you what I've heard from the community and also the other members of Silverton as well. I think there is no doubt from talking to people, we need to do something for the kids at Eugene Field, whatever that may be. We all know that. Whether or not we reuse, refurbish whatever, we build new, there does need to be set guidelines, but however, making comments to the citizens or the personnel that come forward to speak, whether their information is inaccurate or whatnot, the board should understand that those are their own opinions and should not be disrespected. And we hold ourselves to a higher standard than that. So that's all I've got to say at this moment, but thank you.
I've got a question for Joe. Joe, did you feel that somebody was disrespected tonight?
Yes, I did.
In what way?
I felt a board member had pointed out in regards to opinions, hearsay. I felt that that board member should have kept his mouth shut, put it bluntly. I thought that was uncalled for. I really did.
I appreciate that. We hear often that we should be disseminating information and getting the information out, making sure that the correct and truthful information is given out. And so, my point concerning hearsay information, we received testimony from Mr. Johnson, received a letter from Mr. Johnson that says that he was approached at a meeting by a well-known individual, and then he goes on and talks about his concern that there may be this tacit agreement or even explicit agreement that's not been made public or done publicly. Dan, you've got it right here in your letter. I mean, basically that's what it's inferring is that there may have been or there may be, and this well-known individual approached you and asked, he asked why the bond had failed. This person then said to be aware that the city of Silverton was ready to acquire the property for public use. And so I know you weren't representing that to us as that was happening. You were asking us questions about that. However, without a response to that in public, that's the kind of thing, in my experience, that goes out then and becomes fact amongst the community that this is happening. When in fact we heard from Mr. Hector, we heard from others here to dispel that. And so my point in talking about hearsay is I'm asking for folks to come and testify in person. I'd like that well-known individual to be here and to testify to what he feels like is the problem, what he knows. I appreciate Dan bringing it to our attention. So I didn't mean to disrespect Dan, and I appreciate him bringing that forward. I guess what I didn't make clear is that, you know, there are so many beliefs about facts. And so an opinion about a fact that is a wrong opinion is just flat out wrong. And so it's not the kind of opinion that is, I guess, to me, to be given great weight. You know, you and I can have a difference of opinion that I can respect, so long as we both are basing it on the same correct fact.
Correct.
But anyways, so
No.
I guess, like I said, I'm not trying to disrespect or, and I don't want to chill the conversation and have people be afraid to come up here. So that I apologize for if that was a message I gave.
It just came off as disrespectful. I would have chosen a different tone or different verbiage. Sure. Is all. So that's just.
Sometimes it's also important, I think, for the board to clarify information that people talk about sometimes. Because those things do get links. And
Of course.
It is important to clarify information sometimes, so.
And that's why I stepped forward this evening. It's been long, it's been emotional, you know, it's kind of dragged out at some points. But I wanted to give you a pulse from the constituents, both at Scotts Mills and also with the community inside Silverton. The Silverton Fire Department plays a big role within the community, and you get a lot of opinions very, very quick. And so you just wanted to share that. It's just what's being seen right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Dan, somebody else, Dan, somebody raise their hand behind you. I saw them first and.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Middlestetter with Compex. I think
Could you
I know
go ahead
most.
and sign in?
Yeah, well, I think I know most of you guys personally, and Matt Middlestetter. So this is a loud conversation about a lot of things that I don't really have an opinion to. I want to talk about a much quieter conversation that's happening, and that is about the community roots. I just want to bring that back up to the surface. I obviously personally care about it. I have children there. But as a business owner who's growing and we're hiring people as fast as we can, we hire people who think outside the box. We work with 3D printers, virtual reality, and other technologies that require out-of-the-box thinkers. Out-of-the-box thinkers have to be educated differently. I don't know how many of you guys know how to use an abacus or speak Cleon, but that's normal stuff at our office. So
I don't even know what that is.
My employees need their children need a different education. And I'm not saying everybody's different, but I'm just saying that we need to recognize that. And it's a very quiet subtopic today, but I just don't want it to get lost in the louder topic. So I just plead that you keep that in mind when you deal with the larger topic. That's very important to the community and to me as a business owner, that we have a place to educate people who think outside the box.
Grant, what's your core concern?
That'll just get lost in the shuffle.
I mean, are you afraid you're going to get kicked out?
Yeah, I'm afraid that we'll not know, and then by the time it gets discussed, we'll be, oh, shucks, we forgot about that.
It's in the discussion.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. We've always, when we were going, before the bond failed, we had always said that we wanted to work with community roots, and I don't see any reason why that should change.
I appreciate that.
It's more complicated now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I noticed the community as a whole, that was missing in the conversation. I wanted to bring it back up in the conversation so that it was there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Dan. One minute, Dan.
I'm not sure if if it's an apology or not, or whatever. Whatever it is, it's fine.
Okay.
If you take a look at page 2 of what I handed out, I was asking some questions because the board in the last few meetings have brought up the issue of disposing of the school to the city of Silverton, from what I can gather from notes. Somebody said, well, maybe we should just give it away. Somebody has mentioned maybe there needs to be a trade for service hookups so we can get things going down Schlater. That's part of the record, I believe. So when I brought this up, it was in relation to what that person had mentioned to me. Now, I do have other people that are willing to help in the process, and I've mentioned that on page 2. And I'll let this document rely on itself as far as how you take it. But it's in good faith. It's for the community, and it's definitely for the students and staff. If Eugene Field School was in good shape, completely in good shape, for $10 to $12 million, additional classrooms put on as potential, as needed to fit the conformity of the current structure, as well as
Wrap it up, please.
as well as using the north yard rather than where we used to play all the time with a full street going through it. There's room there for green space as well as covered space, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we have one action item tonight, and I'm just going to read the whole thing. Approve the food services management company proposal submitted by Sodexo Education and allow district administration to enter into contract negotiations with Sodexo for the remainder of the 2014-2015 school year and renewable for a period of up to 5 years as allowed by Oregon Department of Education regulations.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in.
Second.
We'll give it to Dave.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Okay, thank you for coming, everyone. We're adjourned, and have a Merry Christmas if we don't see you.